Defending champions are refusing to give up their belt, the junglers refused to leave the West empty-handed, and also it was all about the Haitian Revolution in Montego Bay. All this and more, and this semi-final Leg 1 review show. Yeah, people, welcome back to JPL Fan. As you know, only 4 teams remain in this year's competition, but we had some exciting games out in the nation's second city. Starting, of course, with the Dunkin' Destroyers Cavalier taking on the junglers Arnett Gardens. In terms of the starting lineup for Cavalier, well, Jamal Calvin passed a late fitness test to start up front as a centre forward, and we once again see the midfield trio of Adrian Reed, Dwayne Allen, and Shamar Watson. As for Arnett Gardens, they decided to keep their young goalkeeper Jonathan Wall in goal instead of using the more experienced Tyrone Williams. Xavier Gilbert also shocked me as well by benching Shea Smith in favour of Arbine in the front three. Now, in the preview, I stated numerous times that Arnett likes to play at a quickened pace, and I expected them to shoot out of the blocks for this game. Well, we got the exact opposite of that as the game started very slow as both teams take their time to feel their way into the match. And I mean, they really took their time as we had to wait all the way into the 9th minute for practically the first attempt by anybody on goal with his horrible shot by Warner Brown. But he was just simply warming up. But it seemed that Cavalier were the ones that warm up a bit faster as they were now looking more and more like their usual selves, although they didn't exactly trouble Wall in goal. And they could have easily found themselves being done as well by the 21st minute. Jamon Shepard found himself in acres of space and he carried the ball well before he slipped in a great pass for Warner Brown right here on the right hand side. Warner Brown into the box here on the right hand side, and despite the acute angle, Warner Brown called his own number, but the shot just went wide. But early warning signs for the Cavalier, and apparently they took it serious. In the 25th minute, a long throw into the box right here was the start of something chaotic. After Arnett initially met the clearance, the ball was floated back into the box, and after a couple of headers, it landed with Giovanni Leng at the back post, who composed himself and sat down one of the Arnett defenders before trying to play across at the 6-yard box. Again, Arnett reached it first, but they clearly panicked and simply could not get rid of the ball properly. Especially Shepard right there, I have no idea what he was thinking. And you have to give Dwayne Atkinson some credit for hustling and reach the ball before coming back at the box and then playing a delightful ball with the outside of his boot for McCleary to nod home and give the champs their early lead, 1-0, and it was all Arnett's own doing. But they tried their best to get back into the game right away, and it was once again it had come from Brown after him and Shepard teamed up again at the same right hand side, but this time it formed the arms of Bartlett with his weak effort. From there though, Arnett was still struggling to really get into a passing rhythm, and Cavalier, they seemed that they were just revving up to try to find a second. And honestly, I'm still shocked they did not manage to do so in the 32nd minute. After some good work here to find Calvin basically at the top of the 6-yard box, he gave it a whack with his weaker right foot, but managed to miss the goalkeeper on the target as it went over the bar. That may end up being a crucial miss. But commit the hour, commit the man, and that would be Beasley Atkinson, who simply seemed he was up for this game, and he displayed his great skills again in the 48th minute when he decided to take out Joel Jones and had him dancing with 1 and 2 moves before he carried down to the byline and almost get his cross up to the waiting Allen, but Wall kick save did just enough to keep Cavalier out from scoring a second. 1 minute after that, they would come close again. From the corner, the ball fell nearly in the top of the box for Adrian Reed, but on his weaker left foot, the ball just went harmlessly wide. But Cavalier was not done yet, and neither was Busy, as he again come down that left hand side, and again he took on his defender as a training cone before blasting his cross, but could not find anybody. It was clear everything for Cavalier was running through Atkinson. The Junglers up to this point was having a very poor first half, but they still managed to end it strongly. After they forced the Cavalier defense to try to cut out this cross, they will come again with another good square into the box that found their main marksman Fabian Reed, but his header was way off target and went over the bar. But maybe that will give them confidence to step things up in the second half. Speaking of that second half, Arnett did start off much better, although they still had issues connecting passes. We should also mention at the halftime break, clearly a frustrated Xavier Gilbert made a tactical switch by taking out youngster Tyreek Jones and have Shepard switch to right back as he brought in Shea Smith on the left, moved Warner Brown into the middle, and brought Fabian Reed back in the attacking midfield role. But all that personal switch up almost did not matter, as in the 53rd minute, Cavalier will also come close again after a nice build-up play right here down the left between Ainsworth and Busy, who in turn slipping a good ball for Dwayne Allen into the box, and Allen almost found the arriving Brichters right at the doorsteps, but his crosses managed to miss him. Another close call for the Junglists, as Cavalier has been on top in the match so far. And all Cavalier had to do is try to avoid making any mistakes. Alan Buckley did not get the member just mere moments later after this misguided cross from Arboin went straight to the goalkeeper, but he decided to drop the ball and he did not expect Warner Brown to ghost in, and lucky for him, Warner Brown could not find anybody else in red and black to get the ball into the back of the net. But that basically spurred on Arnett's confidence, as they would now control majority of the possession from here, as they would try to unlock that Cavalier defense. But that means that they always will leave themselves vulnerable for any counter-attacks, which is a bit of a specialty for Cavalier, of course, and they almost pull out something special once again when the ball was played over the top for Richters, who on the run make a good pass into the box for Busy, who himself was also on the run and only could guide his header straight into the arms of Wall. But another reminder of the threat and the transition that Cavalier possess. In fact, 10 minutes later, the two will team up again for almost a carbon copy, as Richters will be down here on the left hand side before placing this curling square at the back post for Busy Atkinson once again, who extended his short stature as much as he can to get ahead on the ball, but again it harmlessly went into Wall's midriff. A tough chance, of course, but another one miss. But clearly Dwayne Busy Atkinson was on a mission tonight, and again he would display the great quality he has when he had this massive counter-attack right here, which admittedly he initially fumbled, but look at this great determination to win the ball back before taking on Philando Wing a couple times in the box, before chopping in on the inside, before seeming to be chopped down himself to the ground. No, referee Coulson ran towards him and decided that was not a penalty, and I must admit in real time it looked a bit weak, but you look back on the replay, it was obvious that there was clear contact and that should have probably been called a penalty. And you know how these football scripts go by now, so of course Arnett Guns will score down the other end right after that. Just mere 2 minutes later at the 88th minute, Warner Brown started the play right here before some excellent work by Fabian Reed kept it alive in the box before Jeremy Nelson almost got in by himself in front of goal, but he was stopped well by Richard King. But the ball was still live and Warner Brown poached on it and got it in the back of net. 1-1, and while it may not be a trademark Arnett's goal, they will take it, of course, going back to Kingston. You could say that goal came as a result of Cavalier legs simply going, as basically for the next 10 minutes, they struggled to keep up the same tempo and just look to manage the game and keep that 1-1 draw to go back to Kingston. Arnett did try something to get the go-ahead goal, but they did not manage to complete the comeback, and the game will be called off with both teams taking back a goal to Sabina Park. So it was a game that Cavalier probably would have kicked themselves for not getting all 3 points, but how was the game in terms of stats? Well, Arnett eventually had more attempts at the end with 10 compared to Cavalier's 7, but Cavalier did manage to have more on target with 3 compared to Arnett's 2. 1 yellow cards apiece to both teams, no red cards, and in terms of possession, the Junglists had more with 54 compared to Cavalier's 46. Alright, let me start with Cavalier first. Well, I have to give Speed credit once again. I have to give their team credit once again. I thought they would be looking like a shadow of themselves just simply because of fatigue, and yet they managed for the majority of the game to play like their old selves. Fatigue caught up with them towards the end, but I'm quite sure they're still disappointed they did not manage to go home with all 3 points. I must also make a special mention about Dwayne Busy Atkinson once again. Once again, he was absolutely superb, and again he displayed that he may as well be the best in the Caribbean. As for the Junglists Arnett Guns, well, they kind of give the impression that they were the ones that just played 120 minutes in the quarterfinals a couple of days ago. That first half especially was simply pedestrian. Although they stepped it up a bit in the second half, it was clear that they still have some cobwebs to work out before they find by their best form for leg 2. But anyway, once again, this first leg finishes Cavalier 1, Arnett Guns 1. We move on to the night's other match, which of course many believe was the main event. It was home team Montego Bay United taking on runaway league leaders Mount Pleasant. In terms of the starting lineup for the home team, well, they practically had the same squad, with the only difference being Jordan Brito comes in to partner Trimingham at centre back, which meant Demario Phillips kept his spot in the middle of the park. As for More Pleasant, there were some surprises as Ming will partner Cummins at the centre-back position. Sule McCullough is not in midfield, he will be placed at right back. Kimani Bailey was at left back, and the biggest surprise of them all was that number 1 keeper Shaquan Davis remained on the bench for Chambers. Now, when the game kicked off, unlike Arnett Gardens, it seemed like More Pleasant made use of their extra time to rest as they started the game with much more purpose and much more energy. They immediately won the possession battle and was controlling majority of the tempo in the first 5 to 6 minutes. Mobe, on the other hand, were struggling to connect passes, and when they do, they were struggling to keep the ball, as More Pleasant were pressing enough to receive the ball. But in terms of action in each final third, we had to wait a while for that, 20 minutes in fact, as More Pleasant will be the ones to get things rolling after some good teamwork right here. Free up McCullough to run into the box to try his best to get a good low cross against the face of the goal, but Mobe got it out for a corner. But this from the ensuing corner, things would get bad for Mobe. After the ball was swung in, I initially thought it was overcooked, but Trumingham somehow misread the ball in the air and headed the ball back towards his own goal. Burton came to claim, but he fumbled after coming in contact with Ming, and the ball popped towards Clifford Thomas, who guided a good volley into the back of the net. 1-0 to More Pleasant, and after Burton won the starting position towards the end of the season, this was just a bad time for his first real big mistake. But now the game was starting to heat up, although Anglin needed a cool head after his kick out and Ferrer on the ground, but luckily for him, the referee decided to give him a yellow card. He would be later substituted because of injury. As for Mobe, they want to get back into the game as soon as they can for their fans, and Mackenzie went on a good solo run all the way up the field before playing in Gordon, but his shot was simply not good enough to get them back into the game. A minute later, from corner, Brito will also come close as well, before More Pleasant will lead a charge down the other side via Nelson, who did well to cut in right here and try to sneak one at the near post, but found all side netting. At this point, the game was getting a bit stretched as both teams were trying to go back and forth, and Nelson again would threaten Mobe's goal with his cracking effort right here that I think Burton did well to get fingertips on to tip it onto the bar. Another close shave for Mobe as they're barely hanging on into the game. But at least they were still trying to get that equalizer before the end of the first half. Fletcher, who up to this point was having a quiet game, tried his luck from far away out, and then right after that, More Pleasant almost caught them napping with his beautiful pass from Nelson, but after he got the return ball from Campbell, it was far from a beautiful shot. But before the first half draw to a close, there will be one more nuisance in the first half caused by Mobe. Mobe, as Hospitalis will be free down here on the left hand side and playing a good cross into the box looking for Ferreira, but Chambers elected to punch and get it out for safety. Clearly, he'll learn from Burton at the other end. But that would be the first half, as More Pleasant will take the slim lead going into the break. But I don't think Teagat Davis would be happy with that first half. I seemed that the players got an earful as the second half started. They quickened their play in the build-up and almost got an early equalizer in the second half, but Fletcher only saw his rather tame shot trickle into the arms of Chambers. But at this point, they were the ones on top or dominating the play, and when this ball hit Kimberly Bailey's arm, a quiet show the More Pleasant defense had their hearts in their mouth. But there was no penalty given, and Tapper Whitmore decided this can't continue and made some changes. One including taking off Devontae Campbell for goal scorer Daniel Green, and he made an immediate impact as he would take the ball going the other way and smoothly got past Trumingham before it being taken down right outside the box. They didn't make much of the ensuing free kick though, but at least they found their way back into this match. But Mobe were still the ones looking more dangerous and kept on pressing, and after this foul was not given to McCullough, Mobe raced towards the box before the ball would be played back to Lima, who cracked a decent shot towards goal, but Chambers saw it all the way and palmed it out for safety. But at least that shot got the home crowd back into a frenzy. Throughout the night, one of the major talking points among the commentators was the fact that Tapper Whitmore made a bold move to keep with Chambers in goal despite the return of Shaquan Davis. And they were almost made to rule that mistake in the 66th minute when Chambers was a bit nonchalant right here on the ball and almost made a horrible mistake, but he managed to grab it just in time. But he and his defense was doing just enough to keep their sheets clean, but if Gordon did better on his chance right here, who knows what may have happened. Which meant that they would need a second goal to really feel comfortable, and after some great build-up play right here between Irvin and Walsh, they should have another. but Bird made up his initial mistake in the first half and did well to stop Irving's shot to keep this match only down to 1 goal. And their best player on the night, Gordon, always took advantage of that with his free kick, but he whistled just wide of Chambers' left post and out for safety. Mobe huffing and puffing, but they simply can't get the goal into the back of the net. They will have one last big chance though. Again, from a set piece, the ball floated in and Brito will launch highest, but he managed to get his header wide. But unfortunately for him and the city of Mobe, that will be the last great chance by any team in this match. So it wasn't the smoothest game by both teams, but how was the game total stats? Well, they were even on total attempts at 10 apiece, but Mobe managed to have more on target with 3 compared to Mount Pleasant 2. 14 fouls to Mobe, 13 fouls to Mount Pleasant, 4 yellow cards though to the visitors compared to 1 yellow card to Mobe. No red cards in the game, and then as for possession, Mobe had more with 54% compared to Mount Pleasant 46%. Alright, I will start with Mount Pleasant first. Yeah, they were okay in the beginning and they probably should have found at least a second goal in that match, but you kind of get the impression that they're not fully back to their best just yet and was lacking match sharpness after their little break before this semi-final match. Tampa makes some smart adjustments in that game even when they were forced to make an early substitution, but their clear man of the match was definitely Clifford Thomas, as even outside the goal, he was amazing in shielding that back four. As for Montego Bay United, I'm not sure what's happening with them. We saw bits of this against Tivoli Gardens, that their general play and tempo is simply too slow to cause any real damage to a team like Mount Pleasant. But credit to them, they kept it to a 1-goal game, which means that this tie is far from over and they will know they were all for play for when they return to Sabina Park next Sunday. Well anyway, once again it finishes Montego Bay 0, Mount Pleasant 1. So that is the first leg done and dusted for the semi-finals before they all move back to Kingston at Sabina Park this Sunday. And both ties are far from over. But that's all I got on this review show. Thank you all for watching and please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you all up to date on everything on the JPL leading up to the final on May 23rd. Otherwise, with great JPL content, you're already at the right place. JPL fan. YouTube, big up yourself.